Okay, I'm Qiuchi. I'm from Shinya University. I'm now a postdoc. I'm very glad to present our research here. So today my talk is Landcover changes of the last 6,000 years in subtropical China. So the subtropical region of China is dominated of evergreen broadleaf forest. It is under the influence of East Asian monsoon climate. Previous studies have shown that the drying climate since the mid-Holocene has caused vegetation changes. Well, a recent study shows that winter temperature increase to a threshold has caused deciduous to evergreen component conversion. So it is still not well understood the climate forcing of land cover changes in this region. In addition to climate influence on land cover changes, human activity also played an important role. It has been generally accepted that rice cultivation originated in the Yangtze River region and gradually expanded to South China. Coastal pollen records have documented frequent appearance of rice-type pollen since about 3,000 years BP. However, the spread intensity of rice cultivation in South China is still under debate. So the objectives of our study are to elucidate climate forcing of land cover change and spatial temporal spread of rice agriculture in subtropical China. Previous inferences have been largely based on pollen percentages. However, we know that pollen vegetation relationship is nonlinear, so the method we undertook in this study is reviews model-based quantitative vegetation reconstruction. Here the map shows the 6 pollen records we collected for this study. They are all boxed. The 3 study areas are located in southern and middle subtropical China. They are also located in altitudinal gradients. For example, the PRB region is located in the lowland area, and the Hui Mountain region is located in the mid-altitude, and the Xingang Mountain region is located in the high altitude in this study. For reviews application, we involve 35 taxes pollen productivities. They are mainly from 4 studies conducted in China. And for most evergreen taxes RPP values, and mainly derived from one of our previous work conducted in tropical Hainan Island. Our recent work involves evaluate the reliability of these values. And the main conclusion is most taxa, they have high reliable RPP values, while some taxa, they might have low reliability. We suppose that might be due to insect pollination of this taxa, so they violate the assumption of ERV model for estimating RPP values. But there's also some other possibilities because involve artificial bias in the observation data used for validation. Now back to the reviews reconstruction. Here shows the pollen diagrams of the 2 low altitude regions. First, we could find a general similar trend of vegetation changes, both between the same region pollen records and between regions. That is mid-Holocene dominance of evergreen components like evergreen quercus, castanopsis in the 2 regions, and then a gradual decrease of forest components and the increase of herbs and pinus. We could also find some asynchronous changes in some taxa, like Anus saprophyta and Glyptostrobus. Saprophyta, we know that many species, they grow on bulbs, And for annuals and glyptostrobus, we suppose that the pollen are largely also derived from wetland species. So the changes in this taxa might only reflect the different episodes of wetland development. They cannot be used to review regional vegetation changes. So in our reviews applications, we both include those wetland species and exclude them to make a comparison. So the results, the left column represent the pollen percentages of the classified taxa group in the 3 areas, and the middle and the red represent the reviews results with the wetland species included and excluded. First, we could find that with the Saporesia included, the reviews strongly overestimate the cover of land openness. This is, however, unrealistic considering the modern vegetation in this region. Also, the inclusion of annuals indicate dominance of deciduous component over evergreen component in this region. If you consider annuals represent deciduous tree rather than a wetland species, so it is still unrealistic because the region is dominated by evergreen forests actually. So excluding those wetland species actually reveal a more realistic scenery of land cover changes. Now, comparing the pollen percentages and reviews estimates, we could find the reviews reconstruct higher covers of herbs and the deciduous component, like here, the dark green, compared to the pollen percentages. And the reviews also estimate lower covers of pinus. So this results in a different scenario of land cover changes in this region. For example, for the 2 low altitude regions, we could find the reviews estimate continuous forest decline since the mid-Holocene, while the pollen percentages shows some recovery of forest component during some time intervals. Also, in the Jinggang Mountain region, the pollen percentages indicate a continuous dominance of evergreen over deciduous components since the mid-Holocene, while the reviews indicate deciduous to evergreen conversion since the mid-Holocene. The review estimated that conversion from deciduous to evergreen in the high altitude Jinggang Mountain region might be due to winter temperature increase since the mid-Holocene, while the continuous decrease of forest components in all 3 study areas might be due to precipitation decrease induced by the weakening of East Asian summer monsoon since the mid-Holocene. Also, our results also identify some abrupt increase of poaceal cover in the 3 study areas. We suppose that they are due to human impact. So considering the spatial temporal changes in the 3 study areas, it reveals an expansion of human impact from the coastal lowland to the inland mountainous regions. So that's my presentation. Last, I would like to thank all of our collaborators, including Maki Jose, Professor Xu's team, and Fu Rong for helping us with our first RPP study in tropical Hainan Island. And thanks for all of our working team for their exhaustive field work and collecting the modern and fossil pollen records. Thank you.
unmute. Thank you so much. It was so fascinating to see this because this is completely new for me, these results. So thank you so much. And I am so extremely happy to see what you have been able to do in tropical China. It's really like a Christmas present for me. Thanks a lot. So we have some minutes for questions.
Yeah.
You know that you can use a chat.
Yes.
To write questions. Any questions? I just can have one questions maybe before anybody else want to ask. You mentioned, where are you, Qiuchi? She disappeared?
Oh, yeah, I'm here.
Here, you are here.
Yeah,
Just my small question. You mentioned that in the pollen percentages, you could see an recovery.
Yes.
Woodland, it was around 4K, 5K.
Yeah.
4,000, 5,000. Wasn't it because of Alnus that you had included in pollen percentages? Because I could see that Alnus was increasing.
Yeah,
or is it a recovery of other taxa you see in pollen percentages?
Oh, yes. The inclusion. Yes, it's the recovery of farmers to results in the recovery of the forest. Yes. So yeah.
I just wondered if it maybe was due to Alnus only, or was it Alnus that is increasing? You can see in the pollen percentages that Alnus is increasing there. You understand my question? Otherwise, we can take it by email. Okay, because it's time. Unfortunately, we have little time. So now we have to move. Thank you very much, Qiuchi. It was perfect presented. Thank you. We have to move to Yuecong Li. Are you with us? Yes. Welcome to present your contribution.
Can you hear me?
Yes, excellent. And we see your presentation.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm Yuecong, come from Hebei Normal University. Today, my topic is quantitative vegetation reconstruction of Late Holocene in the west coast of Bohai Sea. For the background, lagoons are important geomorphologic component of a coastal area with distinctive vegetation and also respond sensitively to past global change. Pollen record from lagoon sediments can be used to reconstruct regional vegetation change and to elucidate the response of vegetation to climates and human activities. Well, pollen not equal to vegetation cover and need to calibrate it. Reveals model is one of relative robust approach in the calibrating. Our work will focus on one is validate the robust of Reveals model. Two is reconstruct Late Holocene vegetation cover of West Bohai Sea. Our work comes from lagoon. This lagoon means Qinhuangdao lagoon, which is a typical same enclosed lagoon located on the northwest coast of Bohai Sea and about 200 kilometers east of Beijing, and is also the largest modern lagoon in North China. 2 sediment core was obtained from this lake. This is the location of these 2 core. They were obtained in 2016 and 2019 separately. About the dating of these 2 core was dating with AMS, and totally 12 stratigraphic levels was conducted. The age range is about 2.1 to 0.34 Ka. And this is the figure between the age and the depth. This is Qinhuangdao, is a younger core. Another is Qinhuangdao A, is a little older. Why is older is younger? Because for this lake there is a large scale dredging from 2016 to 2017 that made the Qinhuangdao A core only cover the age from 3.1 to 1 Ka. This is about the age of our core. About the reconstruction of vegetation abundance, we certainly use the reverse model. This is a version. About 100 kilometers was selected as a vegetation ridge. The PPE of 9 pollen taxa was selected, and the pollen percentage accounts for about 19% of the pollen symbologies. This is full speed and mean RPP for about 9 pollen taxa. Mainly we come from the nearby area. Reference taxa is pollen. This is pictures about field work and landscape. Next, we'll move to the results. First, calibrate. In order to test the robustness of the method, first we get the we get the major text coverage from the vegetation map. Sorry, maybe some problem. We can't see the map. From the map, the broadleaf forest was dominated by crocus and pine. In the low altitude hills and the plant area are cultivated farmland. Then we reconstructed the regional vegetation proportion as a review. This is how to do. First, we use 2 surface samples from lagoon to test. This is the pollen percentage for this surface sample. Is Pinus and crocus is the main tree taxa, and Artemisia chenopodiaceae and cyperaceae are the common terrestrial herbs. During the reconstruction, because the herb couldn't be distinguished from modis, so we can only reconstruct the proportion of major tree taxa, such as Pinus, crocus, and Betula, and then compare with the actual modern vegetation cover and the modern pollen percentage. This is a figure for the compare. The bronze color is the actual vegetation. The blue one is pollen percentage, and the yellow one is reconstruction results. From this, we can see the reconstruction result is very similar to the actual vegetation curve, and a little different from the pollen percentage. So we think the reconstructed method and parameters are robust and can be used to reconstruct regional vegetation. So next, we'll first show pollen samples for this two call. This is a call from about this Qinhuangdao call is a younger one. The age is from about 1.8 Ka, including the period, the medieval warm period, and the Little Ice Age. The pinus, crocus, Betula is a major tree taxa, and Artemisia, Chenopodiaceae, Poaceae, Cyperaceae, Asteraceae are the major herbs. From this figure, we can see the proportion of trees tend to decrease from medieval warm period to Little Ice Age. This is a older core coverage from 3 Ka to 1 Ka. From this paper, from this figure, the taxa is similar, but the percentage of tree proportion is much higher, especially before 1.8 Ka. After 1.8 Ka, the proportion of trees become decreased. After that, we reconstruct the proportions of major taxa. From this paper, from this figure, we can see after reconstruct, the proportion of panels decrease and the crocus increase. Also, for this figure, we can see the proportion of trees in the Little Age. Little Ice Age is much lower than that in the medieval warm period. This is another core. From this core, we can see the proportion of broad-leaved forests have a much higher proportion, especially as a period from 2.2 Ka to 1.8 Ka. Based on this, we give a map about landscape change. From this page, we can see before 2.2 Ka, the broadleaf forest dominated by oak. After 2.2 Ka until 1.8 Ka, the area of broad-leaved forest is expanding. From 1.8 Ka, the area of dry grassland increased. Starting from 1.4 Ka, the area forest increased again. And then from 0.5 Ka, the area of dry grassland increased substantially once again. Okay, this is our major results. After that, we think what's driving this change, human activities of climate. Normally, the climate and the human activities will both driving the change of vegetation. But in different areas, the strength of them may be different. In our study area, during the study period, the archaeological sites are relatively sparse, and the population were also relatively small and mainly distributed in the plain area, and the population didn't increase significantly until 1714 AD. That suggested that there was little change in the intensity of human activity in the study period. Moreover, the proportion, that is a figure. I don't know why they can't show all. The proportion of pollen taxa which related to human activities is very, very low. So we think in the study period, maybe the climate, it was a major driving force. So we compare the vegetation change and the climate change, especially for the percentage of cuckoos and the Artemisia. We can see in the some cold or dry period, such as the dark age cold period and the little ice age period, the proportion of cuckoos is lower and the proportion of Artemisia is higher. So we think the change of regional vegetation in the study area was closely associated with climate change. So that's all what I want to say. And here is some primary conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yuecong. Excellent. Again, a very fascinating study. It's wonderful study. Using the sediments from a lagoon, this is very interesting. We have had such attempts at using sediments from lagoons also in Europe, for instance. And it seems indeed that from your validation or test that it works quite well. So that's
Thank you.
Any question? We have just 1 minute for question. So again, I say to everybody, you are many here. So the easiest is that you write your questions in the chat, and that you can do it still after a lecture. I mean, when we continue, because the speakers can answer in the chat also. So please, it's always fun with questions, so don't hesitate. Okay, so if no question now, we continue. Thank you very much, Yuecong.
Thank you.
So Yao Zhang, or Zhang Yao.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, so nice to see you.
See you. Yeah.
So welcome with your presentation. I'm looking forward.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, can you see my screen? I can't hear you.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Okay, okay. Hello everyone. I'm Zhang Yao, a PhD student from Lanzhou University. My supervisors are Professor Ifeng Zhou and Dr. Qiuchi. My topic is Holocene vegetation changes in inter-central China based on the reviews model. My presentation will include these 5 parts. First, background. Holocene climate optimum is defined by the highest east summer monsoon precipitation, and suggested that the onset of the HCO gradually delayed from north to south of China. Zhou showed the opposite trend. However, dipolar pattern of Holocene precipitation in inter-China was proposed. Some studies think more rainfall in the mid-Holocene, while others believed that wet conditions occurred in the early Holocene. So when does HCO appear? There are still controversies. These climate changes will affect the vegetation distribution, and at the same time, vegetation responds to the climate. Therefore, to understand the regional patterns of the Holocene climate, we can further understand the vegetation changes history. The Qinhuangdao mountains range is a climatic boundary between north and south of China, as well as the current transition zone between the temperate and subtropical ecosystems of eastern central China. It's a key location for exploring the above-mentioned research issues. The reconstruction of temperate and subtropical trees in Qinhuangdao areas can provide us with a direct perspective for understanding past climate changes in the Holocene. Therefore, we quantitatively reconstructed past Landcover changes from the temperate subtropical transition and the subtropical vegetation zone. That's Qiuchi Lake, Daya Lake, and Dajiuhu wetland. The three sites are located on the mountains. Qiuchi and Dayi are small enclosed lakes. Dajiu wetland is the pit with a large area. Observation data are shown in the figures. Part 3, we assess the regional plant abundance based on pollen data by using a reviews model, which provided data. The black dashed box presents several inputs required by running reviews, among which the pollen production, RPP, and the fall speeds of pollen, FSP, are the critical parameters for reviews application. This map shows the parts of RPP research that have been published in recent years of China. Here, we list 3 sets of RPP and FSP used in our study. S1 contained RPP mostly for temperate trees, particularly Abies, Passia, and Carolus capinus. S2 includes Rosacea and subtropical taxa, such as evergreen quercus and Castanopsis. S3 is the average of RPP estimates from S1 and S2, and those new released RPP for subtropical and tropical taxa from Zheng and Wan. Thus, S3 includes the most important taxa commonly presented in the regional vegetation of the 3 sites we studied. Furthermore, the size of sedimentary basin and the wind speed are the rest 2 parameters affected reviews mostly. Considering the wind speeds at 3 alpine sites are most likely higher, we explored the effect of different wind speeds on the reviews results based on pollen data from Daya Lake as an example. In addition, the time window of reviews runs spanned 400 years each, except for the fourth one that covered 200 years. This figure shows the effects of using different RPP sets and wind speeds on reviews reconstructions. We can see that in S1 and S3, its appears with a high FSP led to an increase of abundance by reviews. Then appears abundance decrease with higher wind speed. Consequently, the abundance of Corylus carpinus and rosacea increased with the decrease of appears. In S2, rosacea estimates reached a high value because of its low RPP and no appears included in reviews runs. However, when the wind speed is greater than 6 miles per second, there is little influence on the reviews estimates. In summary, we need to be cautious when applying a reviews model to sites with high pollen percentages of appears and rosacea in high altitude areas. And considering the high altitude of our study sites, we suggested that the wind speed of 6 is suitable for vegetation abundance reconstruction in mountains. Results and discussions. These 3 figures show the age depth models of our studied sites. The bottom age of Dayi and Dajiuhu is 7,000 years, while the age of Tianchi Lake is 6,000 years. This table shows the basic information of the pollen records from sites. The pollen types are similar for temperate taxa, but varies for subtropical taxa, and the pollen resolution is high. Among these 3 sites, Dayi Lake is the new released pollen data from our study. The rest 2 have been published. This pollen diagram of Dayi Lake shows the 2 stages of vegetation changes. By inputting the 3 pollen records mentioned above together with 3 RPP sets and wind speeds into the reviews model, vegetation abundance can be reconstructed. The x-axis is the age, and the y-axis is the vegetation abundance. The upper 3 rows of figures represent temperate trees, and the lower figures are subtropical trees, in which black points, the gray columns, and the red points represent different wind speeds. It can be seen that vegetation abundance showed obvious changes around 2,200 years in 3 sites. For temperate trees, reviews abundance were regular with no apparent changes until 2,200 years for Dayi and Tianchi Lake, while then gradually increased for Dajiuhu wetland and then declined. The drop was stronger for Tianchi. The same trend is true for subtropical trees. In order to test whether the reconstructed results are reliable, we evaluated reviews performance for each site using regional model vegetation maps. The gray columns show the temperate trees cover in the map, and the yellow is the reconstruction based on different sets in the photo time window. From this picture, temperate trees abundance by S2 is low, mainly because S2 doesn't contain appears. For Dajiuhu wetlands, the temperate trees on the map is low, but the reconstruction is high, mainly because very few subtropical types. In Dayi Lake, when the wind speed is greater than 3, the temperate trees abundance by S1 and S3 is close to the land coverage in the map of 50 kilometers. Qiuchi has little difference, mainly due to the low percentages of apiaries. In summary, the reconstruction of small lakes in high altitude areas by the reverse model reflects the regional vegetation abundance. On the discussion above, we use the pollen percentages and the vegetation reconstruction results based on S3 with wind speed of 6 to show land cover at 3 sites. Yellow represents the land openness and green is the trees coverage. For Dajiuhu, the trees increased from 7,000 to 2,200 years, and then decreased, indicating that the climate may be from warm and humid to cold and dry. The important landscape opening occurred in 2 time windows. In this time window, it might be amplified by a local development of wetland herbs such as Persia, and the openness of the past 200 years is attributed to human activities. The increase in open land around Daye Lake was not obvious based on the reverse model. That means small impact of land use on vegetation at high altitudes. However, the vegetation changes in Daye Lake didn't show a clear response to the climate, which may be due to the classification of vegetation. So we further divided the vegetation of Daye Lake into different categories. Here we can see that each vegetation type showed a clear change based on both pollen percentages and reveals estimates. We can conclude that vegetation of Daye Lake is sensitive to the climate changes. Finally, the Qiuchi Lake, the abundance remained stable or increased slightly until 2,200 years, and then decreased climate developed too cold and dry. We observed human-induced landscape openness since 1,000 years. Based on our study, we concluded that reverse model can be used for regional vegetation reconstruction from small alpine lakes. Second, Holocene vegetation changes in the central and eastern China are mainly affected by climate. Third, land use affected vegetation more intense earlier in temperate than in subtropical zone. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Excellent. Unfortunately, we run out of time. So I have questions to you, but I will send you the questions by email because it would be quite a long discussion, I think. So
okay,
we do like this, okay?
Okay.
All others can do the same or write in the chat. So we have to continue. Thank you so much for your nice presentation.
Thank you.
So I welcome next speaker. Where are we? Ryoma Hayashi. Yes, welcome.
Can you hear my voice well?
Perfect.
Okay. So, hello, my name is Ryoma Hayashi from Japan. Maybe I'm the only one participant from Japan. I'm working at the Lake Biwa Museum. So, today I will talking about mainly the reviews of the absolute PPEs, pollen productivity estimate of some of the major temperate tree taxa and some of the poaceae species obtained with flower counting approach. This approach is a very simple and direct method for estimating the pollen productivity. Sorry. Okay, so as you know, pollen productivity estimate one of the very important and critical parameter for landscape reconstruction algorithms. However, most of the PPEs obtained are in relative values. In addition, the selection of the pollen dispersal function is critical for estimating pollen productivity, either in relative value with ERB model or in absolute unit using pollen trap data. So the flower counting approach is unique and different line of research scheme for the PPEs. Absolute value of PPEs are obtained without impact of the selection of dispersal models. So main APPB data in these reviews were measured by Dr. Hideki Saito, who was a professor of the Kyoto Prefecture University. And he was my classroom teacher in the university. So Dr. Saito and his associate obtained APPs in the 1970s to 2000 as part of their project on forest primary production in forest ecosystems in temperate region of Western Japan. Okay, so let's move to the method. This figure shows a simple illustrate for the flower counting approach in forest stand. So in the field, in the forest, the male flowers per stand were measured by using the litter traps in the forest, like these photos. And then stamens per male flowers and the pollen per answers were also counted at the laboratory for estimate the pollen productivities. So in case of the poaceae stand, the inflorescences per stand were also counted by direct harvesting method or counting method of the flowers. Then flowers per inflorescence and the answers per floret and the pollen per answers were also counted at the laboratories. So this is our study site. We summarize the list and list the APP result of 5 gymnosperm tree species at 64 stands and 18 angiosperm tree species at 53 stands, as showing in these maps. In addition, the APP result of 26 stands from the poaceae dominated communities in Japan, Spain, and Morocco are also summarized in this review. Okay, let's move to the result of the absolute pollen productivity based on the flower counting approach. This is the main figure of the result of this review of APPs based on the flower counting approach. This orange dot showing the APPs in each forest stand in each studied year. And the orange bars also indicates the bootstrap means of the APP and the 95% confidence intervals. Sorry, sometimes the slide will be stopped. Okay, sorry. So based on the result, the 17 taxa selected and reviewed show large differences in the mean APP values, the ranging from 1 to 60. The unit is 10 to the 12th power grains per hectare per year. In detail, for temperate conifer taxa, such as Suchiad pistis, Cryptomeria, Chamaecyparis, show how high APP is, more than 10. So also some broadleaf tree taxa, such as Castanea, Castanopussis, and Alnus also show high PPEs. But in contrast, ABS, Fargus, and Bachelor show low APPEs, about less than 2. In addition, interestingly, our review shows that Poaceae has also intermediate APPEs, about 8.3, based on our flower counting approach. So it means that Poaceae is no smaller than 3 PPEs. So this table indicates that comparison of absolute pollen productivity estimate of 6 tree genera and the Poaceae between Japan based on the flower counting approach in this review and Europe based on the pollen trap approaches. So this table indicates that APPEs are comparable between the flower counting approach and the pollen trap approaches. Both of that mostly in the same order of magnitudes. The unit is same, I mean. In addition, our reviewed data of the APPEs tell us also the year-to-year variation in the pollen productivity. This red line indicates a continuous 28 years records of APPEs for Cryptomeria japonica in Misigi region, Japan. So those continuous year-to-year variation record tell us about the lower figure showing the temperature record in last July. So those both figure show that APP records at the Misigi site and the temperature record in last summer record are positively correlated. So species to species variation is also indicated by our reviewed data. So this green box indicates APPEs in each species of Quercus, and the red box indicates in each species of Alnus. So this figure shows that compiled record in this review suggests a large between species variation of APPEs in genus Quercus, showing in green area. In contrast, the mean APPEs among the 3 Alnus species are constant without a large variation. Okay, so based on the absolute pollen productivity, based on the flower counting approach, we calculate the relative pollen productivity. This figure showing the inter-regional comparison of RPPEs of 14 tree genera relative to Poaceae as a reference taxon. So this figure indicates the relative PPP value of the arboreal taxa against Poaceae in this review appears smaller than those obtained in Western Europe and China based on the ERB model approaches. So we discuss about those discrepancies. So we think differences in the sampling and analytical methods, as well as interregional differences in Poaceae pollen productivity, would have contributed to the discrepancy observed in this figure. Okay, lastly, I will show you the preliminary result of reveal-based reconstruction by using our APP record. So this pie chart shows the preliminary reveal result using surface pollen sample from Lake Biwa based on the APPEs in this review. Upper left chart showing the pollen composition in Lake Biwa, and upper right green pie chart indicating the vegetation composition within 100 kilometers in radius from the lake. So lower two pie chart showing the reveal result. So the left one indicate is a reveal result based on the Sutton's Gaussian proof model. In contrast, the right lower right chart showing the reveal result based on the Lagrangian stochastic dispersal model. This figure indicates that estimated vegetation composition based on the Lagrangian dispersal model is more similar to the vegetation survey data within the 100 kilometers of the lake than that pollen percentages. It's very good result, I think. So, but in contrast, vegetation composition in ABS is strongly overestimated based on the Sutton's dispersal model. It means that selection of the dispersal model is very important for apply in the reveal-based vegetation reconstructions. Okay, in summary, so we think that although further studies are necessary for our new approaches, but the flower counting approach is practical and informative for species-specific estimate of absolute pollen productivities. So if you have interesting about our new approach for the PPEs, please contact us. Thank you.
Thank you a lot for this excellent presentation. Amazing study, very impressive.
Thank you.
That's great. So we want some questions, but we have little time again. But please, any question to this?
Yeah. Good afternoon or good evening to all of you. Thank you so much for all the team members of LandCover6k for giving me an excellent opportunity to present my work. And I will be presenting the challenges of Western Ghats, which is derived from a case study of a high resolution late Holocene pollen record from the Western Ghats. Sorry. So the study was conducted to compare the pollen records of drier South India with wetter Southwest India to assess the past heterogeneity of vegetation in these distinct biogeographic zones. The sediment core from the Western Ghats was extracted from a lake called Pukod Lake, and it is located in the Kulenia Meswa Palaquium biogeographic zone in Wayanad district of Kerala. And this biogeographic zone is in a medium elevation forest ranging from 600 meters to 1,400 meters. This region receives is from both southwest and northeast monsoon, and it also has temperature gradient from 23 degrees Celsius at lower elevation and to 16 degrees Celsius at higher elevation. And presenting the lithologue, sorry, I can't see. Yeah. I'm sorry. I am presenting the lithologue of sediment core of the Pukod Lake with uncalibrated carbon dates. And this sediment core was extracted in collaboration with Dr. Sushma Prasad from Potsdam University, Germany. And pollen samples were analyzed by the team of French Institute Palynology Lab. The Pukod Lake sediment extract, the sediment length was 5.3 meter depth, which goes around 2,140 Callia BP, and the samples from the Pukod Lake were around, I mean, it was a lot, but only 24 samples were selected for the pollen analysis. And the whole core was subsample in 2 centimeter resolution. And if you see the lithologue here, below 3.3 meters, you can see a lot of gravels and boulders, which suggests that the lake experienced some disturbance, maybe in the past, or probably a landslide. This is the output graph of the Bacon for the age depth modeling carried out for uncalibrated carbon dates of Pukod samples. And I'm going to show the result, which was carried out in a conventional methodology. Around, 115 pollen types or taxa were identified and recorded, and these pollen types were categorized based on Pascal 1988, and with the personal communication with Dr. B.R. Ramesh. Major 4 categories further, with giving core primary evergreen forest taxa, secondary evergreen forest taxa, deciduous taxa, and some were shrubs and some were climbers, and there are some exotic taxa also. And the pollen taxa or type were arranged in ecological attributes and habitats for further understanding. And the major primary evergreen forest taxa were Kulenia, Meswa, Palaquium, and other taxa, which is given in the slide. So this is a cumulative pollen percent diagram of Pukod samples. And if you see, as I explained in the last slide, around 3.3 meters, we have got only 2 samples for the pollen analysis. And of course, the samples were good with a lot of primary evergreen taxa were there. But then when you see about 3.3 meters towards the top, there were like 22 pollen samples were analyzed, and you can see a pattern clearly, which goes from 1,673 Callia BP to 900 Callia BP. You can see the primary evergreen taxa were less compared to the other taxa in the diagram. And when it comes to 900 Callia BP to 233 Callia BP, the primary evergreen taxa got increased. Okay, and after that, towards the modern time, because of this, the presence of exotic taxa and more shrubs in the region, primary evergreen taxa decreased. And based on this pollen analysis, we have got some results, like got 3 scenarios of the land cover change through time at Pukod Lake, inferred from the pollen analysis. That is, the first one scenario goes from 1673 to 900 Callier BP, where that was a period of transitional stage towards the climax stage, which means that scenario 1 was a dense evergreen or semi-evergreen forest, which is potentially related to the climax type. And after 1600, after the scenario, first one, the second scenario, where the climax forest established. And the third scenario, this climax dense evergreen forest was heavily disturbed by anthropogenic pressures. You have already seen that in the graph that the exotic species, because of this cultivation or plantation in the region, might be the cause of this. And this Pukod sediment pollen records were later compared with the pollen records extracted from Southeast India. This pollen record was actually extracted for application of reveals model, which we will be explaining it in the next session, in the later session. And Sinnababu Samudram was a drier place, and this was a tank where it get rainfall mostly from northeast monsoon. And if you see the rainfall from southwest region, it is actually high. Whereas if you see the rainfall of this region, it receives mostly the rainfall from northeast monsoon. So Sinnababu Samudram sediment was around roughly around 5,500 Callier BP, and the resolution we subsampled only 10 centimeter. And these samples, of course, we later used for reveals reconstruction for the quantification of the land cover. And based on the pollen percentage diagram plotted on the basis of ecological attributes of the pollen taxa, there were again, for this region itself, we had tropical dry evergreen forest formation, which is the main forest formation of this region. And there were some open markers also. And this is again the Bacon age depth model, which was carried out for Sinnababu Samudram pollen samples. And this is the cumulative pollen percent diagram of Sinnababu Samudram, where you can see an open forest which persisted in the landscape throughout from 5,500 Callier BP to 384 years Callier BP. Yeah, and still, there are a lot of Cyperaceae taxa and some swamp and cultivated taxa also, which clearly signifies the increase in the cultivation in that region. So a comparison between these two southeast and southwest core, which have done in a conventional way, gives that there is an increase in human impact in a very recent past. And what's striking is that in the wetter zone, landscape transition involving changes in the species composition of the primary wet evergreen forest, which is clearly visible. In the drier zone, it is the persistence and resilience of mainly deciduous tropical dry evergreen forest over an even longer time. This reflects the relative resilience of the two landscapes. And the wetter forest landscape show persistence and resilience too, which is actually visible around 900 to 200 Callier BP. And however, of course, we have done a conventional method But in order to make the result more robust, more records from this biogeographic zone and RPPs of this taxa and for the quantification reveals application will be good, I think. And coming to the challenges, I want to talk about Western Ghats. Western Ghats is a region which is highly influenced with topographic variation, orographic effect of slopes and summits, and there are the high rainfall, and the rainfall will become shorter when it goes to the northern side, and there is an altitudinal temperature gradient also. And regarding the vegetation type, wet evergreen to moist and dry deciduous climax forests are clearly distinguished in this region by decreasing in mean annual rainfall from west to east. So let me talk about the challenges. It is that in Southeast India, the relative pollen productivity were estimated, and these RPPs were applied to reveals for quantification. Whereas in Western Ghats, there are some challenges, which is the first one is that in southwest and southeast part, there are some similar pollen types, but the constituent species are different. Hence, the RPP estimated from this region cannot be mutually used for quantification. And many of the taxa in Western Ghats, they are non-anemophilous due to the canopy cover, and hence the pollen productivity will be less, I think, compared to those plants species which are present in the open land, which is in southeast region. And Western Ghats, since it is in the windward side of monsoon, which experience full intensity of summer monsoon. So in which the region receives heavy rainfall, often more than 5,000 millimeter. So hence there is a chance of surface pollen to get washed away by rain or carried away by wind. So these are the challenges right now we are facing in order to continue our same research work in estimating the RPP and finally for the quantification. So I would like the chairperson, Dr. Marie-José Gaya, to give some, if there is time, or through the mail also, to give some comments or help. So thank you so much. I would like to thank all the team members, Dr. Sushma Prasad from Germany, and the Pondicherry French Institute team also. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I always forget to unmute myself. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful work. We don't have time to comment on it. I am so sorry, but you know, we are in contact, so no problem. And everybody, question in the chat.
There's a question in the chat already. So
we have to continue. So next speaker, thank you, Navya.
Thank you, Marie-José. Thank you, Shaq.
Excellent. Zheng, please.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Hello,
Okay.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, may I share my presentation?
What do we do?
Navya, stop sharing.
Navya, you have to stop yeah. So now you should be able to. Excellent.
Okay, can you see my screen? Oh, okay,
yes.
Okay. Okay, time is limited. Glad to take part in LandCover6k conference. My presentation, the title is reconstructing cropland areas for South Asia over the past millennia. I'm Yuecong Li, and this work is carried out by me, my graduate student, Xin Liu. Okay. Sorry. Wait a moment. It cannot. Is it okay or not now?
It's you can see the PowerPoint window, but it's not in presenter.
Okay, I will.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This work has been submitted to journal Regional Environmental Change. And my presentation will be include these sections. First is the introduction. Tropical climate of South Asia facilitated the agriculture in there. Second is large population needed to be fed by food from cropland. And the colonization of Europe in South Asia also led to significant land use here. Lastly, Green Revolution in India intensified land use here dramatically. All factors show that past land use reconstruction for South Asia is significant and important. This is the present works we can review global scenarios. The first line is HIDR 3.1, and the second line is 3.2. These two versions, we can see some differences between them. Third is KK10, and great difference between HIDR two versions. So great differences exist between among these global scenarios. Continue. We can see these regional reconstructions. We do meta-analysis. We can see from the up map only about 100 years regional reconstructions only cover 100 years. And for some small regions, not the whole South Asia. And their results, we can see great difference exists. Summary, the global scenarios and the regional reconstructions. The reconstruction of past land use for South Asia is in its earlier stage, lagging behind Europe, America, and East Asia, China. No options, so the following researchers have no choice but to use global datasets, HIDR, to modeling climate and environmental research. The study area, my study area is not the whole South Asia because of the data availability. Only 3 countries today, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. The period, reconstruction period, is from AD 640 to 2016. Third is the overview of my methods. 2 sections. First is the estimation of cropland area. Then I will allocate the cropland area into grades. 2 periods. One period is AD 640 to 1871. No statistics available, so we use population as proxy. The yellow background population estimate, and for using population and per capita cropland area, we can estimate cropland area for this period. And the last 100 years, 1900 to 1940, 1960 to 2016, combined, three of them combined, we can get a cropland area for past millennia. Then we allocate the cropland area into grids. More details, population estimate. This is the methods and data sources for different years and periods. The blue fonts are years with more evidence. For this periods, information is not available, so linear interpolation were used. Then is the cropland area estimate. First is for the past 100 years. These two periods, 900 to 1940, from British India statistics, and for recent half century from statistics of 3 countries, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, also include subnational data. For this period, population proxy. For the millennia, cropland area per capita get from the following methods. After I get the area datasets, I will create a model to allocate cropland area into grids, land suitability for cultivation. These factors are used, climate, soil, and so on. Maximum cropland area are used. For this, some subnational data are available. Our results, population over past millennia, we can see this period to 1800 increased slowly. After that, increased rapidly. This is population from different sources. Cropland area, several phases, several stages for this period to 1000 increased slowly. This stage stable, and for 1400 to 1750 increased slowly. 1700 to 2000 increased rapidly. After 2000 decreased slightly. This is the special distribution of cropland for the 640 to 1900. We can see cropland intensified slowly from 640 to here, slowly to 1400, intensified slowly, and after that, faster. We can see in some specific regions, Ganges River and Upper Indus River basins and the Gika Plateau. For the last 100 years, the last century, we can see great cropland in India, in South Asia, in Ganges Plain, Ganges Delta, and Gika Plateau. Okay, we discussion our result, comparison with previous studies with global scenarios. We can see the red line is our results. Our results are greater than HIDA. then had two versions, 3.1 and 3.2, and also PJ dataset. And after this point, 1800, lower than them. Particularly, we need to point that KK10 is greater, much greater than Earth, than our results. Per capita, our results show that per capita cropland area decreased gradually from past to now, and the global scenarios almost stable. And the spatial comparison, we can see great discrepancy. This is the first column. KK10 intensified much than HIDR 3.1.2 and our results. And our maps show that in AD 640, extensive agriculture already exists in South Asia, but the not so intensify. Some uncertainties also exist in our research. We think our initial result, our land suitability map, do not well reflect the spatial expansion of agricultural activities, but just capture the changes in the intensity of land reclamation. Thank you. Suggestions
Thank you
and comments.
so much. Thank you so much, Zheng. It was really great to see this work, and I am sure it's already written in the chat that somebody is very happy about this. It's Keys Kleingoldewich, the Hyde man. So yes, do you want to say something, Keys?
Yeah, first of all, I really do like this kind of study. I think it's really cool. And I was wondering whether it's published somewhere, because I really want to compare it more in detail with my own estimates. So well done, good job.
Is it already published?
Not yet, not yet. Just
okay.
Yeah,
Get it out there.
submitted.
Good work.
Thank you.
I'll send you an email, Shinya.
You have to collaborate with Keys.
Yep.
Very, very important. Your data set is very important. Thank you a lot. Thank you.
I'll email you.
So now we come to our last talk of this session. So please, Aishan.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You are welcome.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Saishan Zhao, a doctoral candidate from Institute of Geographic Sciences and Natural Resources Research, Chinese Academic of Sciences. It's a great honor to have an opportunity to attend this conference. The members of our research group are Fan Neng He, Shicheng Li, Meijiao Li, and Fan Yang. The main work of our research group is the reconstruction of East Asia used historical documents. Today, I will briefly report on the results of our research on the reconstruction of cropland in China during the last millennium. The first part is background. In the past millennium, the population has increased rapidly and the land cover pattern has changed significantly. So reconstruction of the cropland in China in the past millennium is necessary because the region, territory, and administrative boundaries in China has changed frequently. So we reconstructed the cropland individually for different areas at different times. The second part is the reconstruction of cropland area. Our reconstructed cropland area data are as follows. They are mainly based on the Texas cropland and military-oriented cropland in historical documents. Parts of the historical documents are as follows. However, the Texas cropland and the military-oriented cropland are not equal to cropland area, and there are differences in historical documents among dynasties. So we have constructed different methods of reconstructing cropland area based on the features of the documents in different dynasties. For example, there are cropland taxes and the number of household data recorded in historical documents in Northern Song dynasty. So based on this data, we estimated cropland area in the Northern Song dynasty by analyzing some society factors in this dynasty, including land use policies and the taxation system. Besides, by quantifying the relationship among population proportions per capita cropland and the cropland area, we designed a cropland reconstruction model. And the model was used to reconstruct the cropland area at a provincial scale. And in other dynasties, the methods of our own dynasty, their own dynasty were constructed. Then the provincial cropland areas during the past millennium were reconstructed in Song Liaojin era, Yuan dynasty, Ming dynasty, Qing dynasty to present, respectively. The third part is graded reconstruction of cropland. The long history of agricultural development in China shows that as the population grew, the cropland was increased. So we argued that the distribution of cropland in China's historical period should not exceed a modern distribution of cropland. That's the assumption one. And from the long history of agricultural land in China, it can be seen that lands with good natural conditions were found at first. That's the assumption two. So here is the framework and method based on these two assumptions. Firstly, we established the cropland area in China at a provincial scale during the last millennium. And then we determined the maximum range of available allocations of cropland based on the assumption one. In addition, we established the land suitability model by using the driving and the limiting factors of spatial distribution of cropland. The driving factors included the climate and the soil texture. The limiting factor included the slope and the elevation. In view of the fact that different regions are subjected to different constraints, the graded allocation model is constructed respectively for each of the three regions, namely Eastern region, Xinjiang, Qinghai, and Tibet. In the Eastern region, the change of the coastal zone and the farming pastoral ecotone were considered in the model as limiting factors. In Xinjiang, pattern index of farming activities were considered in the model. Finally, the graded data on China's cropland during the last millennium was reconstructed. The first part is result of the reconstruction. The cropland area in China has generally shown fluctuating growth during the last millennium. And there are significant differences among provinces. And in the last millennium, the cropland has been expanding, forming a trend that centered on areas such as the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River and Yangtze River, and expanded to surrounding and even border areas. Then we compared this cropland data with global data sets, and we found that the differences of data sources and the graded reconstruction method can cause the difference among the data sets. In summary, based on lots of historical documents, we reconstructed cropland data at national and provincial scale during the last millennium. Then the graded reconstructions of cropland in China during the past millennium with 10-kilometer resolution were completed. And this research reproduced the spatial and temporal evolution of cropland distribution in China during the past millennium. And here are the results of our research group recently, including the reconstruction of cropland and grassland, forest land, and the comparisons between regional dataset and the global dataset. Thank you so much. That's
Thank you so much, Saishan. Is it right pronounced? Very much, very important work. Again, that will be, or maybe is already implemented in HIDE, I don't know, partly not. Okay, so that's great. Thanks a lot to have contributed to this first session, all speakers, and we are in time. In spite of very short presentations, I know how difficult it is to make short presentations. So we have a 15 minutes of break now until next session. But remember, I wonder if those that came in the waiting room now are doing something wrong. Next session is another room. So it's another link that you have got in the chat now. Chad added it just in the chat, and it is also in your emails from yesterday. So you can leave this room and and the other one and have some break, and we see each other again very soon. So thanks, everybody. It was a very nice session. Thank you.